Welcome to Stories That Sell, the podcast for business owners who want to create real connection through their content. I'm your host, Naomi Rose, and each week I will be speaking with an incredible person talking about their stories from behind the business. Not just what they do, but who they are. Because behind every business, there's a person, and the person is the reason people choose to trust you, buy from you, and recommend you. So in these conversations, we go a bit deeper than the surface level offers that you might have. We talk about the journeys, the decisions, the moments that shape them, and the stories that have built relationships, their reputation, and the way they show up today. Connection builds relationships, relationships build reputation, and that's what leads to referrals and real business growth. Let's get on with today's episode. Well, hello, wonderful people. I hope you're well, and welcome back to the new Stories That Sell podcast, formerly known as the Creatie Content Club, with me, Naomi Rose. I am your content marketing expert here. But over the last 4 months where I have been on hiatus from the last episode of the Creatie Content Club, which went out before Christmas, I've been really thinking about what is going to be useful to you as listeners for this year, because there have been so many things going on in the world, from AI to socials changing how you get seen, to how consumers are actually buying from you. Things have changed. Launches have changed. Evergreen has changed. The world is at a very interesting place economically, development-wise, and technologically. So I wanted to bring you something that would be really helpful. And the one thing that people cannot take away from you, that technology cannot take away from you, is you, your personality, the reason you are unique. And we know that people buy from people. They don't buy your products. They don't buy your features. They buy when they feel that connection, that link with someone, where they feel like they get to know you. I've had people tell me, this is absolute genuine stories, and I had the clients that can vouch for this, that have brought from me because I've talked about my dog. They've seen I've had a dog. They found that connection. They found like they could get to know me through that. And that's why they brought from me, because I had a dog. I've had people that have said they brought from me because I didn't talk about marketing, but I talked about the fact that I ride a motorbike, I keep bees, and I play the cello, not all at the same time. These were reasons that piqued people's interest and thought, actually, she might get me. She's that kind of person that's not fitting in the box. She's a bit different. And this is where we've gone wrong in so much of our content. We feel like we're needing to shout more about what we're selling, why we're selling it, how we're selling it. And that's not what people want, because there has been lots of things like we're in a trust recession. People aren't buying in the same way they used to. Launches are dead. There's all of this noise going on, which isn't genuinely true in some cases, because there is still a lot of trust going on. But it's about understanding how you can really connect with the right people. And most conversations don't start with, "Hi, can you buy my thing?" People don't see that first. If they see that first, you are automatically blocked, or certainly that's the case in my inbox. What people are wanting to get to know is to work out whether you are relevant to them. How is this relevant to me? Are you going to get me? Are you going to listen to who I am? And this has been true for so many years, but something we seem to have forgotten about, because what we're seeing now, and this was absolutely reminded at a masterclass I was at with the incredible Kelly Roach on Monday, where content is being created a lot by AI now. And yes, hands up, I use AI, but I don't let it take away my personality. And I certainly don't let it take away my client's personality, because that's what's made them unique. But what's happening is people are just farming out AI content on socials and talking to other people that are farming out AI content on socials. So all we've got are the robots talking to the robots. No people, no humans, no customer interaction, no old school way of communicating like we used to. Like pick up the phone, go meet people in person. That's what people are craving. They're wanting that human connection. And how do you know what's real out there anymore? There's so many different conversations around this. So that's a really long-winded way of saying this is why this podcast is having a facelift, a relaunch, a revamp, a rebrand, whatever you want to call it. It's changed its name and it's coming with a different vibe because it's not what you have to sell. It's the stories you have to tell that is really important. That's what's going to make the connections. Showing it time and time again where I've been telling stories, and that's got me more engagement, that's got me more comments, it's got more responses to emails, it's got more people coming up to me when I've spoken on stage saying, "Oh, I play the cello as well," or "Oh, you live not far from me," something like that. Every connection begins with a conversation, and the easiest way to start that connection is finding a mutual common ground. And that's where your story comes into it. Because it's not just about figuring out how to make a sale from an ideal client. Actually, there's a kind of a fit. We need to make sure we're having the right fit. You're right for the client and they're right for you. It works both ways. So without this initial story you're telling about you that shows your uniqueness, which can feel really, really uncomfortable. I get that. We don't always like to talk about ourselves, but bear with me on this one because it's actually not about you. The stories you tell are never about you. They're about the client. So if you think about when you meet someone for the first time in person, in the flesh, we often start with lovely day, isn't it? Right? Start with the weather, mutual ground. Let's get a conversation going so it doesn't feel awkward. But then we start to probe and ask more questions. What do you do? Ah, okay. Yeah, I do as well. I've got 2 kids, or I've got a dog, or I've got this, or yeah, I absolutely love that. These are the kind of things that start to build that connection, that relationship, that rapport. And when you start to dig a bit deeper through the layers of the onion, you can start to see why people want to buy from you or why you want to connect with that person and if they're right for you. And that story is where you start to really make the sales in your business. That's the real content that connects. But it feels uncomfortable talking about ourselves sometimes. We don't feel like we can always shout about what we've done, or we just feel like we should be talking about our potential clients more than ourselves, or our families, or our kids, or our dogs, because it's so much better to talk about them and everything they've done. But it's not always about telling how amazing we are, although I know that every one of my listeners and everyone beyond that are amazing. It's about building that connection. Doesn't have to show you as getting everything perfect. Actually, perfectionism doesn't exist. I'm a perfectionist. I want to make everything perfect. It takes me too long to do that. And actually, why be perfect when you can be great and get better results, right? But people don't want perfectionism. It doesn't exist. They don't believe in it. It's not obtainable to them. I've said this before on the podcast and in many of my content. People will not buy if they don't believe they can attain something. So it's their own self-belief that often stops them from buying. So if they're aiming for perfectionism and that's all you're showing, they're never going to feel enough. So sometimes we have to tell the stories that show and demonstrate who we are, what we do, the mistakes we made, how we've overcome, what we've learned. Those are the things that are really going to expire or inspire even, hopefully not expire. So this is what I want you to think about while listening to this podcast. Now, it's not just going to be me. The previous iterations of the Creative Content Club, that is now Stories That Sell, have been purely solo episodes with me. And as much as I love just talking to my mic, and in this occasion talking to Ruby as she is snoring on my foot right now, on the heated blanket, which we are currently arguing over. And yes, I do know it's April, and yes, it's warm outside, and yes, I'm still using the heated blanket. But I want you to see from other incredible business owners, I want you to see their story. I want you to hear from them. And I want you to understand how you can, in your own unique way, bring your story and use it to build those connections. You know, there are so many inspirational people out there, but actually sometimes we forget the small things in life that can build a connection, like favorite chocolate bar, daily habits. These are all things that people can relate to, and it's a great place to start when you're thinking about conversation starters with potential clients. It's the small little things in life that people will relate to. And that's why I am bringing incredible guests onto the show to let you get to know them, hear their story. You can go and look up their businesses. You can go and look up the wonderful things they do. Through the show notes, there'll be links and everything like that. But that's not what this podcast is about. It's about digging a little deeper. It's about seeing the person behind the business and really showing that everybody's just human. Everybody's just a person, and everyone has a story to tell. And that is the secret weapon to being successful in your business in 2026. So I want you to remember that when you're listening to this podcast. Now, if you've not listened to the previous episodes of the Creatie Content Club, please do go back and listen to them. I do offer loads of useful advice on how to create content that converts. But what we're getting into now, and this is something I've been doing masterclasses on for well over a year now, is how to use our own personal stories. I look at so much content online. As you can imagine, it's my job. What I often see is what I call the beige vanilla stuff. Lots of useful, great things about people's businesses, but I don't remember them. Stories will make you memorable. So that is exactly why this podcast is going to exist. Now, I'm not going to be waffling on my own. Like I say, there will be guests coming on. I've got a great first guest for next week. I cannot wait for you to hear from her. She's an absolute powerhouse. I want you to start doing two things for me. And I will think of the second thing when I tell you about the first thing. The first thing is, I want you to think about what you do every single day. What is your routine? What things do you like? What things do you really dislike? What goes on an average day for you? Because before you tell me, well, I'm not really all that interesting, it doesn't matter. The boring stuff is what we love, right? People love routine. People love hearing about other people's routine. We like familiarity. We're human. So I want you to think about that. And then secondly, what I want you to do, and you can totally tag me in this and I will share it for you. I want you to do me a quick post telling people who you are, how you help them, and one thing about yourself that has nothing to do with your business. One fun fact. It doesn't have to be anything mind-blowing. It could be the simple fact of you like collecting shoes. I mean, shoes is something I like collecting. My feet, on the other hand, do not like wearing shoes as much anymore, but I do like them. Anyway, I digress, but you get the point. Tag me into it so I can see what you're doing, because I want to get to know you as much as I want you to get to know my guests. So give me your stories. Tell me about you. This is where this podcast is pretty much based on that journalistic instinct. So I've worked in PR departments before, and actually being in social media a lot of the time, my job was to find the stories in the dull stat-led, heavy documents of scientific information, right? Nothing anybody would ever read who isn't interested in that area. But it was fascinating stuff if it was told in the right way, if the story was packaged up in a way that people understood. That's exactly why this podcast exists, because it's about how you tell it, the way you tell it, and how you build that connection with people. I'm fascinated by people. This is one thing that I really, really love to talk about. I really enjoy understanding people's behaviours, watching them. It's been something I've always enjoyed as part of marketing. It's such an important part of it, particularly understanding their behaviours online versus offline, all of these different things that bring this together. What you start to learn from observing people, seeing what they do, looking at analytics, is understanding at what point do they go from someone who's kind of interested to someone who's, I need this now. And it's always at that moment where they feel connected, where they feel something much deeper than just words. It's that connection. It's that they get me. I really need this now. I'd be crazy not to work with this person because I absolutely want to work with them. That's the kind of ideal client you want, because they are a dream to work with. I'm very lucky to have amazing, amazing clients. I love working with them all. They're an absolute joy and a pleasure. It doesn't feel like work. But that's exactly being built on connection, stories, getting to know people. And actually, when I've got into my clients' stories, they always surprise me. Some of the things I find out about them, the stuff they've done, it's just incredible. And I know that's you too. So I hope you are going to enjoy this next series of Stories That Sell, or certainly the first series of the revamped one. I'd love to let me know what you think of it. So do get in touch, do let me know what you think, and find me on all the socials. Happy listening. First episode is out next week. Thank you so much for listening to another conversation on Stories That Sell. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to check out the show notes for anything we talked about today. I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway was from today's episode. So tag me on Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook and share it to your stories. I always love hearing what resonates with our listeners. And if you haven't already, make sure you're following the podcast, subscribe, leave a review and send it to all of your friends. I'll see you on the next episode.